Check this.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you? It's your good buddy Lee Bailey here on Be Encouraged. As you can see, I am way encouraged today. I am at the lake, my sister's house down at Lake of the Woods in Virginia, kind of not southern, but mid Virginia. Actually, I think pretty close to Northern Virginia still. Anyway, I wanted to say good morning to you. Our friend Dan will be joining us momentarily. I was on lake time this morning, so we got a little bit of a late start, but that's okay. We got lots of stuff coming up today. Not really a whole lot. Just going to chat with Dan as we normally do about things going on in our world and how we can see positive and wonderful and how we can see good coming out of whatever it is going on, as bad as it can be. Let's take a couple 2 minutes here to see promo a couple of our shows, and I'll be right back. All right, good morning again to you all. It's going to be a great day today. I'm telling you, I'm already looking forward to my sister probably taking me out on the boat if she gets some time down the road here today. We've got a couple people watching Tour Arsala, of course, and I am at the lake. Yes, that's a good deduction. Billy Riley tuning in to say hello. What's up, my man Billy? And I hope he's doing well. Hope he's out of the hospital. We haven't chatted with him in a while, but he's I have, but we as a Be Encouraged group haven't chatted with him in a while. We'll have to have him on when he's feeling up for it to just tell us the road he's been on, because he's really at the end of a good road. He's cancer free. Finished his last chemo. He's doing a great job keeping it all together, because it's hard, man. It's hard, I'm sure. And I've been through a lot of what he's going through, but it's different for everybody. And I mean, Billy and I have different battles we have to approach and come at and come towards. So it's one of those things where you just do the best you can, and you hope and pray that everything will be worked out in the end for the good of everything, for the good of God. As a matter of fact, there's a great song out there called Miracle by Shane and Shane that got me through everything I was going through. And talks about, I don't need to see a miracle. I just want to know it's going to be okay. And I don't need to see a dead man come alive. I don't need to see the cancer go away. I just want to know that it's going to be okay. And, you know, I know it's going to be okay. So I've got it all covered. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. I hope you have a great day. It's already looking like it's going to be fantastic. when I first walked out here, I got a little bit of humidity, but I'm gonna tell you something. I sit down and I feel great. I mean, the temperature's not bothering me. There's no big issues as far as that's concerned. Um, it just, it's one of those things that you have to just absorb your surroundings. You look at what's going on, you see this creation that is mind boggling. I mean, just looking at a tree is mind boggling to me if I allow myself to really think about how that thing grows. How does it, I mean, it's crazy to see that. And then think about yourself, you know? Think about the intricate workings of our bodies and how we can make things happen and do things that if you really think about it, and think about this is one of the things that's interesting to me, is the people who are in robotics that are trying to make robots like people. They're never gonna make a robot that's like a person. All these commercial, you see these wonderful movies, these fictional movies about robots and things like that, and they look humanoid, they look like people. That's never going to really happen because you can't match this creation. I mean, you might be able to match me, but there's so much creation out there that is impossible to replicate because it is so intricate and so woven together in in such a precise way. So anyway, see a couple people joining in and popping in here on watching the show, and then they pop out and they pop in and whatever, and that's great. I appreciate you guys doing that. Hope that we have a chance to really delve into some really good topics this morning, and and discuss how to approach different aspects of what's going on in the world in a positive, loving, caring way. Um, we have in our little microcosm that we live in here in the United States, you get a sense of, and not, I mean, I feel actually here where I am right now is a microcosm of safety, of pure joy, and in at the nature's best. It's a beautiful place, and you just kind of forget that there's war and strife going on in the world, and there's people who believe that it's okay to hate. There's people who believe that they are better than another person. Um, these are all things that make the world not the best place to be in. But we all know that there's a better place coming. And speaking of that, I have two dear people in my life who have gone there, passed along, and moved on. And one is Dale Brudvig Jr. His family, his kids were in my youth group. They're awesome. They're the most awesome young people. And but unfortunately, they lost their dad, um, and pretty young, actually, if you think about it, in his 60s, I believe. And then there was a true tragedy in our lives, but we saw it coming, and it doesn't make it any easier. That's Joey DeCesar. I always used to say DeCesara, but Joey DeCesar. I think Joey's probably maybe was turning 30. I'm not sure. He's late 20s, early 30s, I believe. I might be wrong. I've never really paid attention to how old Joey was, but he's been since high school fighting cancer, and then finally, uh, over the past week, has lost the battle with cancer, but gained an entry into spectacular. So, and that's the only word I can use to describe what it must be. I mean, and that we have no idea, but we can't comprehend the 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 enormity, the spectacularness, the beauty, the wonder of heaven. But we know that Jesus died for us and that we are going there. And so I can't wait to do that. And I'm going to have to send a link to my man Dan again. Let's do that. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. So off it goes to my friend Dan, and he'll be joining us here post haste. I don't even know how that works exactly. I'll have to figure that one out and let you know. Beautiful day today. And Dan should be joining us here momentarily. And he got it. So he's going to be joining us here momentarily. Can't wait. I wasn't able to get him on last week because of me, not because of him. He was ready to go. So I remember I came up with a tagline this week, and I want to remember it. I was doing the radio show, and I can't remember. It was one call, y'all. When you call one, you get them all. Something. When you make the call, you get them all. Something along those lines. And I thought it was so good at the time, and I can't believe I didn't write it down. But yeah, so that's a story of my life in a lot of cases. So here he is, ladies and gentlemen. He can't. He's got his camera pointing up to the ceiling. There you go. Hey, good friend, how are you?
Hey, sorry I'm late.
It's okay. Hey, listen, I got no complaints. I'm sitting here in my sister's lake house, and I'm just looking out over
Nice.
the lake behind me. It's beautiful, beautiful day. Yeah, it's nice. I know. I'm looking forward to it today. How are you doing, my friend?
Plus luxury. Good and bad, you know.
Yeah,
The
a
good is
lot
I'm
of.
finally off of a scooter and my leg is healing up. The bad is I've got a turkey button sticking out of my leg. One of the pins decided to pop out, so I'm gonna have to
Oh
go.
no!
I'm gonna have to go back in for some surgical stuff
I
to
hear
get
your
the bones.
doggy.
Yeah.
Is that your
Miles is in
doggy?
the background. Yeah.
I hear Miles scratching at the floor down there. Hi, Miles.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so my sister has a little dog who's awesome, but she's a rescue, and
Mm-hmm.
she was a breeding. Proper term is for a female dog, but that's what she was. She was and bred out completely, and now she's afraid of everybody. And so Charlotte, God bless her, has finally gotten to the point where she somewhat listens to her. I mean, she's a good girl. She's a good girl, but she kind of does her own thing. She's kind of like a cat, actually. She does what she wants to do,
Aloof.
and yeah, she's a little aloof, and yeah, she's wicked scared of everything. I came in yesterday evening. Of course, she bark, 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 and then she gets used to me being here. And then this morning, I wake up and bark, 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 bark. She's barking at me like she didn't know I was in the house. And but she's fine again, so she'll be fine all day today. And then tomorrow morning, guaranteed, I'll get up and she'll go bark, 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 and she'll be that way for about an hour, probably, just
Yeah.
wondering what the hell I'm doing here. So she's a trip, but she's fun, and she's super sweet. She's a little something doodle, Aussie doodle or something, and she's a cute girl. She's nice,
Fun.
but she won't come to me, and that hurts my heart. I feel like I'm gonna have
I'm a lover,
so
not a fighter.
she doesn't love me. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So my friend, so in your life this week, have you been having some struggles? I mean, been some struggles with work. or
Um,
personal?
just a full plate, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I imagine. I mean, you got a
Lots of
full plate
people.
all the time. It's,
I
you,
know, but
I
it
mean,
just happened to be one of those weeks where there are
yeah,
lots of plates spinning, people
yeah,
in need of time, and um, you know, it's
yeah.
life.
Two of my good friends from church back when I was in church at Good Shepherd Church in Burke for 25 years or whatever, uh, passed this week. One was with some
Oh,
kids
I'm
that were
sorry
my
for that.
kids in my youth group's dad, who was an awesome dude. You know, he was your quintessential blue collar carpenter. You know, great, super neat guy, and it was a sudden thing, so we know it wasn't COVID or anything like that. It was a sudden, all of a sudden. So don't know all the details. Don't need to know them. And then the sad one, the one that is sad for all of us and is glorious for him, is Joey DeCesar, probably in his 30s. He When he was in high school, he was a drummer and he played the quint drums,
Yep.
and one day he kept missing a drum. And he's like, "What the hell?" And he's playing, and he's missing drums. Boom, boom. Go to the hospital. He's got a brain tumor,
Oh wow.
and he's had that for now probably close to, yeah, almost pushing 20 years,
Wow.
and going through all kinds of trials, all kinds of testing, all kinds, just it ravaged him. His body's completely was ravaged here at the end, but he's in a new body, and he's in glory. I mean, there's no
That's
doubt,
great.
and he's a strong believer, so he knew that where it was going, and and you get to a point, I think, where you say, all right, Lord, when are you going to take me? It's getting old. And I'm sure he was at that point, and so I'm sure he's very happy that he's finally crossed. And so that's, all the family is in that mode. We're all sad, but it's been a long time coming. And I'm speaking for myself, not for the family or anything, but I imagine that there's a certain, while there's going to be utter loss, it's a certain relief as well, that know that he doesn't have to screw with all that crap anymore. That he's been,
Yeah.
and he's been the best at it. Every time somebody said something, there's a trial, you want to try it? He's like, yeah, and it's always his decision. His mom always told him it's up to him, and he would go with almost any trial. This last one they tried, and it wasn't working. So, and that just kind of
Mhm.
went downhill from there. But anyway, and then my cousin is also, you know, there's a struggle there. She's really on her last legs, and hospice wants to come in, and her husband doesn't want to let any strangers in his house. He wants to take care of her himself and that kind of stuff. And it's like, there's just a little bit of an understanding there. I'm sure that they have talked about the fact that let's just make it happen as fast as possible. Let it happen as fast as possible. We don't need to prolong anything. But everybody else has their own ideas. She has three sisters who love and adore her, who they're hurting hard, and
Sure.
this that's the thing I guess we can talk about today, Dan, is that it's not a fun thing to talk about, but where is the place that you can be at peace in all of this, and I know that you're the kind of, I mean, I know I've heard, especially through your sermons, how many times you've had to deal with things like that, how many miracles you've seen, and then how many times, actually, they're all miracles. Whether the
Yeah.
person passes to heaven or not, it's a miracle in and of itself. And it's all about how you look at it. I was just talking about the fact that literally, probably one of my most incredible songs that to this day, just I listen to it and I just think, where did he get the words for this? And that's Shane and Shane with their song Miracle.
Yeah.
I don't need to see the cancer go away. I don't need to see a dead man come alive. I just want to know it's going to be okay. I don't need a miracle. I'm not looking for a miracle. And then sometimes he is looking for a miracle. But you know what? If it doesn't come, what I want to know is it going to be okay? And
And that,
I've been there. I've been there, like people praying, let's have a miracle, let's heal your lungs, and all this kind of stuff, and that's beautiful, and it could have happened for sure if it was in God's will. But God's will
Here,
was
here.
is so apparent in so many other ways, and guess what? I'm here now, right?
That's
So,
right.
and things. I mean, the things that came about during that process in just a couple of days, the turn of events was miraculous in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got people that come up to me now and they're saying like, "You're a miracle, dude," and I'm like, I don't think about it. I don't think about it that way. I don't see it that way necessarily, but I know that's true. And I need to claim that, but and I do. I don't shy away from it. But at the same time, I'm like, look what's going on in the world that is so horrid, and I'm why do I deserve that miracle? That's one of the things you go through as a transplant recipient. I think, especially if you have empathy, and that is, there's a point of you feel guilty that why was I chosen to get those lungs, and I understand, but that's a real thing you have to deal with in the transplant, as being a transplant recipient. You really have to deal with why did that person have to die? Number one, the person you're getting the stuff from, and number two, how many people, how privileged am I to be able to receive that? And and I'm sure unfortunately there's probably people out there that are like going, see, somebody else could have gotten those lungs that needed them worse or something like that. Well, I was going to die, so I don't know that anybody could have needed them worse, but there were a lot of people probably that were on the list longer. These all things, but there's so much that goes into it that it does justify. And I understand that I may have been the only person that could have taken those lungs. So it's so much physically and everything else that goes into it. But that goes through your mind. You go through your mind when I'm like sitting there. You know what? If I had died, I'd be okay.
Mm.
It wasn't for me. It wasn't a fear of dying, as much as leaving people behind that I love and wanted to continue to love on and care about. And that's what the biggest issue for me was, getting it done. And because I wasn't afraid to die, that wasn't on the table. But I didn't want to leave my kids. I didn't want to leave my family. I wanted my buddy Dan. All these things that these are the things that go through your mind. So,
Sure.
how, I'm doing all the talking today, Dan. I'm sorry. This should be
Well,
you and I together.
no worries, no worries. I'm listening, and the reality is you've been there, and the moments of desperation when you feel all of that stuff pile in is when you're crying out for the miracle. And when the miracle happens, the desperation's not there anymore. But it doesn't make the miracle any less miraculous. You
Yeah.
know, the timing for you was great. It happened to be lungs available, and that person, you didn't sacrifice that person. That person was willing to sacrifice their lungs when the time came, whenever it came. And so you can't really be glib about it, but you certainly have to look at it and say, "Wow,
Yeah.
I was provided for, and
Yes.
I get to live. I get to watch my kids grow up. I get to enjoy being at my
Lake.
sister's lake house.
Yeah.
Get to, and yet, when the people are in that moment, I remember just grieving for the loss of a friend who was an artist when I was back in Connecticut, and he was in hospice, and it was his last hours. It was, a 24-hour stretch where, I'd sit with him and his family, and we'd all sort of doze off at times because it was a waiting game. It was just, you knew the end was near, and you didn't want to miss it. You didn't want to miss being there and to usher him into the kingdom. And yet it was so sad. It was so heavy, and
Yeah.
I think one of the things that being having a background in psychology and theology is we've got to let it happen.
Yeah.
We want to stuff our grief. We want to stuff our fear. We want to stuff anything that rises to the surface. If only I had been more, if only I had done more.
Right.
We want to reconcile the things that are broken in our lives. And really, all that has to become part of the cheese grater that happens. It just sort of sifts us out in those last moments or in those tough moments. They don't have to be last moments.
No, there's lots of tough moments where
Because then we start to say, I want to live for something more joy. I want to live for, what's next. And so when we're there, to me, there's nothing better than the scriptures to turn to. And they bring such comfort because they talk about something that transcends the circumstances. There are tons of places in scripture that say, when our enemies are beating down our door, when illness or famine or disease or whatever are coming down to the pike to kill us, we just cry out to the Lord and say, Lord, where are you? What have you done? How do we live through this? And, there's a passage in Isaiah 53 that I go to so often because we think, well, one day we'll be healed. One day we'll be okay. I'm not really worried about death. And we really mean those things. But when you're up against that, it doesn't feel that way.
Right. No, true.
And yet Isaiah says, by his stripes, we are healed.
That's right.
We've already received, we already have such assurance of our salvation in Jesus that by the things that he suffered on our behalf, the healing has already happened. We get to wake up this morning. Right. We get to be at the beach house. We get to be at the lake house. We get to have cool guitars hanging behind you. We get to have friends and family and all these things. And so it gives us the capacity to realize that there are some that don't understand what they get to today. And so that's the strange disposition of our hearts. In the midst of our grief, we have to realize that there are people who have so much less. Like, I can't imagine what it's like to be a non-Muslim Afghani on the tarmac begging for a flight out of that country right now. That's got to feel that level of desperation is nothing near anything that I could ever have experienced in my life.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it's like to be one of the ground troops that's still there, on the U.S. base in Afghanistan, being in line to leave the country and know that you're just an amazingly large-sized target. And there is a good likelihood that there'll be a bombing of some sort.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. No, it is crazy. And then the other side of it is, that where I come, one of the things that I think about is I just think about, just get everybody out of there and then bring in the airstrikes and just kill these guys. And I'm going, Lee, how about if we try and convert all of them? And that's, I know there's people who feel that way, and it's like, yeah, that's a hard task. That's a task that's near impossible. But with God, there's nothing that's impossible.
You have both sides of that issue from a Christian perspective. There are believers who believe that there's just war, and that's why we've been there, and that's why we should go in and just decimate. And that is, also a conundrum, because we struggle with this mindset where we're not going to be like our enemy because that's what they think of us.
Right.
Or do they? The hard part is I know so many Muslim people who have said we're peaceful people. Look, even though the Quran talks about, the infidel and how we need to earn our way to salvation, earn um,
Yeah.
our rights to heaven.
And in the Quran, it also talks about how it is your job to convert those who are not believers, just like it says it in the Bible.
Sure.
Except for their way of doing it is a little bit more, that we don't understand. But at some point in the Bible, it was similar. It was similar. If they don't convert, then kill them.
Yeah.
And, so that's not what Jesus came to tell us. It's not the gospel, but it's something that occurred. And people look back to that and pull that out of context and say, you're just like them as a Christian. You're just like the Muslims. You want everybody to be a Christian. And hell or high water, it's going to happen.
Unfortunately, in that area of the world, Christians have a pretty bad rap too, because during the Crusades, they went through and decimated everything.
Yes, absolutely.
Resources, people, whatever. They took whatever they wanted to, and in the name of Christ. And you kind of go, well, of course, we're going to have
the name of Christ, but not led by Christ. I would like to think,
right? That
in the name of Christ, but not led by Christ.
And
in the name of God, but not led by God. And human beings have free will to do all kinds of things that we've done in our lives that are no explanation why the people have done them. We don't know, mental issues, whatever it is. But it's something that we, it's one of those things that I believe during creation time, sitting there at the draft board, God's going, well, the only way that I can truly know if they love me, and that's the whole goal, is if I give them the ability to not love me.
Yeah.
And make a choice, and they have to make a choice as to what it is that they want to believe and want to know, and the only way they can come to me is through faith. And how much would I love to be a bird, knowing full well that God is the reason I am flying around, and that God provides food for me. These are all things that separate those animals and things in our world from us. Is that God? They know who God is. They know He's real. There's no faith involved. They know that the greatest creator is who He is. And yet He put that in our minds to figure out, and by our own free will. Anyway, I love you, Dan. Thank you for coming on. I'm sorry that I was so late sending you that link. By the way, I think I sent you a link to your personal Gmail first. I usually send it to this one, and that's where you were looking. But I think I sent it to the wrong Gmail. So anyway.
Grace. Hey,
anytime, my friend.
Put a punctuation mark on this and say there's always hope.
Amen.
And
always is.
That's why we want to have a show like this where we encourage people with more joy, because there is more.
Amen. There's lots more. Yeah, there's so much more. Dan,
hey, enjoy the time at the lake,
buddy. I'm going to. I just my daughter. My sister is on a big time call. She's bigwig. Let me tell you something. She is a bigwig, and she's a mover and shaker. So these I got to see how I can crawl in and not be on the background of her shot. So, but I love you, buddy. Take care.
Have a blessed day. Love you too.
Give Kristen a big hug.
Will do. Same to Mary and